always start with a picture of my family. If you don't know me, I'm Janine, and I'm the director of Raising Raving Readers. And I love to inspire families to create a culture of reading in their home. So let's get started. Let's talk about how to pick the best books for your kids. So this is key. So this is the key that I wanted to kind of help you guys realize, that you should introduce new books as often as you get your kids new clothes. And this is a really important factor to keep in mind, because as you're buying new clothes for them, their bodies are changing, obviously. And so you know that their minds are growing at the same time. So here we go. Okay, is that okay? You guys see that okay? All right, so if you're shopping for new clothes, definitely pick up some new books at the same time. And remember, don't feel bad about spending money on books, because statistics show that they give you the biggest return on investment. Beyond learning apps, beyond toys, beyond tutoring even, buying books for your kids and reading them to them gives your kids the best possible future. So let's get going. Here are some of the steps that you can go through when choosing new books. Step 1 is age, of course. Babies and toddlers, for babies and toddlers, you want sturdy books, because younger children really thrive when they can experience the book on their own first and then read it with an adult. My 2-year-old loves to look at books for himself. He'll grab the book out of my hand and flip through the pages first, and then have me read it to him. So also with little ones, sometimes they have trouble turning the pages. And so what you can do for that is wrap a hair tie around the board book page or a rubber band, and that will keep it open a little bit so that they can get their fingers in and turn those easier. I hope I'm in the right spot. Can you guys see me okay? Make sure you're commenting below if you like any of these tips, okay? All right, next is the type of book. So your child might have a specific preference, like, nonfiction or fiction, but you really want to have all types of text in your home so they get experienced to all different things. This could be fiction, poems, storybooks, picture books, early readers, magazines, things like that. Finally, nonfiction is really the most important, because that's what they're going to be reading the most in academia and as an adult. I know a lot of moms don't like reading nonfiction. I actually heard a mom say that I think it was yesterday, that she reads a little bit of a nonfiction book, and then she will reward herself. She'll reward herself by reading fiction after, because she likes reading fiction to her kids and she doesn't like reading nonfiction. So that might be something to keep in mind. But you definitely, if your kids gravitate towards one type of book or the other, you want to try to mix it up for them so they get used to all types of text. I've noticed that poetry really is kind of like a universal text. So many kids love it, especially if they're funny poems. I'm wondering if we have that funny poem book still. I think we do. If you want some recommendations on funny poem books, then let me know. I have a few. Okay, leveling can be really tricky. If you have a child that hasn't started reading yet, this is going to depend on their attention span and the subject of interest. So if they're really into a certain subject. However, the longer you read to them, the better they are going to get at this. Okay, so for younger children, there's some trial and error that you might have to go through with a book. If you start reading something and they aren't interested, hi honey, you don't have to sit there and read it to them, okay? Don't be afraid to stop the book and put it aside, because you really want it to be an enjoyable experience when you're reading to them. But you don't want to forget that book. You don't want to say, oh, my kid isn't interested in it, because honestly, it might just be that they're not ready for that. So you want to set that aside, and you can bring it back later and try it again later. And sometimes it takes a few tries before they want to try something new, or before they get to that stage where they're ready for it. So don't discount books just because your children don't like them right now. For children that can read, the level that they read to you and the level that you're going to read to them aloud is going to be different. Okay, so you want to read books to them that are both below, at, and most of all above their level. So with the kids that can read, if you're reading aloud to them, you want to try to read books that are above their level, because they're going to hear more complex words and more complex sentences. And when they hear those words and those sentences, they're going to be more likely to be able to read those when they start advancing in the level. That's where you get that increased vocabulary and increased comprehension, is when you're reading above their level. Okay, so they really need to hear those words before they can read them. So now picking books for early readers can be a little tricky too, because there are all different types of systems out there. It's a really good to have them read books that are below their level, because it increases their confidence and gets reluctant readers motivated. So if you have an early reader, please don't discount books that are lower than their level. That is going to really get them excited, and encouraged to read more. A good rule of thumb is to have the child read a page, and if for the early readers, and if they miss more than 5 words, it's too difficult, okay, because they're going to be struggling through a lot. However, if they are really interested in a topic and you are reading the book with them, then it's okay for them to miss more than 5 words. You can just read those words that they can't. You can read them for them. You don't want them to struggle too much on the page, because that's going to interrupt the flow that they need to understand what they're reading. So for older children, you don't have to worry so much about leveling. You want them to mostly choose what they want to read for themselves, but you really need to be careful about content, because there's some weird books out there for sure, right? Have you guys ever run across any weird books? Comment below with a book that is weird that you would avoid, okay? That people, you want to tell people that they need to avoid. I think one of those books, what was it? Oh, so we were reading Shakespeare, and some of the Shakespeare is fine, but for younger kids, there was a couple that were kind of graphic, violent. And so I was like, oh, whoa, some of the words like slash and, gash and stuff like that. I was like, oh, maybe I should be reading this to my younger kids. That's kind of scary. So anyways, you could have kids write down the titles that they want to read and then preview them online, so you know what they're about before you get those books for them. There are some young adult books that are not even appropriate for adults, in my opinion. So yeah, for older children who are reluctant readers, definitely consider longer books that have illustrations in them, like comics and graphic novels. For these readers, you may need to have bigger incentives for more challenging reads, or books that you think they would really enjoy, but they just aren't motivated to read. You might have seen people paying their kids to read self-improvement books and topics like that. I think that's a brilliant idea, but instead of paying them, you could use privileges or, something else. So I definitely think with the older kids, just try to get them out of their comfort zone. You might have to reward them a little bit. All right, so interest. This is so fun because you get to learn a little bit about your child, and they get learn a little bit about you too. So I really encourage you to read books that you like. I absolutely hate this book called Scrambled Eggs Super. It's actually a Dr. Seuss book. I feel so sad about that, but I just refuse to read it. I really cannot. If you do not like a book, I really encourage you not to read it to your kids, because they can tell that you don't like it, and it really doesn't make it as fun. Okay, so the book that I don't like is Scrambled Egg Super. There's no point to the book, and it just goes on, and it's a huge tongue twister, the whole book. Okay, so don't feel bad about hiding the books that you're sick of reading, but are your children's favorite, okay? Because you really want to make the experience enjoyable for both of you. You can bring it out later if you just need a break. So don't feel bad about that, all right? So what do your kids like? I want to know. Think about things like space and dinosaurs and hobbies too, even hobbies like baking and biking and basketball. Think about the types of stories they like to read about, you know, mystery, survival, funny stories. And finally, look at the movies or other book series they enjoy. If you pay attention to the interests that your child is choosing to read about, you're going to have more success in picking gifts they enjoy, learning experiences, or opportunities that they will like. So really, this is a really fun aspect. Anne says, is it wrong that I tell them to have daddy read the books that I don't like? Yes, I love that idea. That is awesome, Anne. Definitely do that. I encourage that. Okay, so reading with your kids can really open doors and windows into your child's heart. I think that is one aspect of reading that people really miss out. I remember that when I was, I think it was in 6th grade, my mom, she would read to me aloud and we would kind of like trade off and on. Honestly, I would complain about it. I would say, Mom, I really, really don't want to read right now. And she was like, oh, please, you know, and I felt bad, so I would do it. And then she would get tired of reading and I'd be like, oh, I'll read, because I wanted to read the more of the story. And it really opened lines of communication with my mom, that after we stopped reading, those lines of communication kind of shut off. And so I would just really encourage you guys to think about that. Even if they're older and they're complaining about reading with you, you know, encourage them to do it anyways, because it really impacts them and it shows them that you love them through your taking time with them, and it really opens those lines of communication. Okay, let's get going. Cost, finally cost. You guys, if I find it really sad that people just scoff at spending money on books when most books are $5 and under, but they spend tons of money on video games, candy, and other things that are actually damaging their children's mind and body, okay? So books are really the first thing that we should buy our kids for gifts, and the first thing we should ask other people for. You can always donate them or resell them or re-gift them. So the library is an amazing place to go for free books, as well as many programs that offer free books to kids, okay? So definitely look out there for those programs. You can do a search to find places in your area, and I also provide free books to people in need. So if you need more information on that, please email me after the webinar, after this class, or message me, okay? And I have some great options for you guys. So if you need free books, just let me know. All right, okay. So that's the struggle though, right? You don't want to spend money on books that your children don't like. You don't really enjoy borrowing books that your children don't touch, right? Who's ever done that before? Honey. Honey said, I've spent my life saving on books. That's awesome. Well, you know what? Don't feel too bad. You're really gonna, if you catch day one, you definitely want to see that one, but you don't have to feel so bad. There's some great information on that. Okay, so that's another reason I created this club, is because we have over 1,700 titles that you can choose to put in your book club package. But if you don't know where to start, I can offer suggestions. I can make it really quick and easy. I'll give you everything you need to make the right choices. And with the club, you can always get a different book if you don't like something, okay? And here is what Sarah said about the club. We absolutely love getting our book club package every month. Every single book we have received has been so cool and exciting to explore. All are things Levi is interested in. Isn't that awesome? So if you want to raise a reader, this is for you. The club is for you.